Hi, good morning. My name's Rich and we're Consumer Hub and we focus on recruiting marketing, innovation and sales professionals within the FMCG sector. And this mini-series is Meet The, and we are meeting some of the best talent in the industry, getting a deep dive into their day, their year and what good looks like in the sector. Today we're really excited because we've got Jack Anderson, Commercial Manager from Candy Kittens, with us on the show. We know Jack really well and he's a super guy, so we're really excited to get into a bit more detail on what his role involves and also what Jack considers to be best practice. So Jack, thanks very much for joining us on the show. Can you just give us a quick top line on what your role involves as a Commercial Manager and what value it adds to the business?
Yes, I can indeed. So Commercial Manager probably has numerous different names. Could be a national account manager, key account manager, predominantly it's all the same. And then primary role is to increase sales within a portfolio of accounts. So for example, I look after currently some of the supermarkets, so Ocado, Asda, Morrison's, Waitrose, and primarily you treat them individually to try and grow your brand presence, your sales across the year and build on that basically.
Nice. And in terms of the typical day, like what's that like? Because I think unless you're a commercial manager, you're not going to know. You might see the results, but actually, what goes into developing that sales line for the company you work for?
It's weird, really, because it's one of them. You know, when you're at school, like this was not a job that I knew existed. This is not something when you're in year 6 and you're like, when I want to grow up, I want to be. Everyone says policeman, footballer. No, I didn't know a national account manager existed until post university. And it sounds very cliche and like not every day is the same, but genuinely not every day is the same. You obviously have your weekly jobs that you have to import, like all the data, keep checking in with your buyers, but it does vary depending on tasks. Like you have to react to, so for example, last year with the shortage of drivers, you have to react to different things, react quite quickly. So every day is different, but at the same time, you have to follow a similar structure where you're keeping on top of your forecasts to make sure you've got the right stock in the right places for the right customers. You're keeping on top of any problems with your buyers, and you're keeping internally, making sure everything's aligned. So you know if you're doing a new launch, what you need to do, when you need to communicate it. So it's a lot of cogs that go into. Well, my friends say it's a very simple job, and I don't do any work. But there's a lot of cogs that go into it to materialise into that not much work, I suppose.
So a lot of just moving the dial and moving the needle on lots of different things to make sure the big picture fits together.
Yeah, I suppose you're kind of a specialist for your account. So for me, for example, I need to know what's going on in Asda. Like, are they having a range review? Are they rationalising their range? Are they changed owners last year, for example? What's their view compared to Walmart's, and kind of feeding that back to the business so we can react with new products that are suitable for them. Like HFSS is on its way, so obviously massive with the sugar. Are we making stuff to cater for that? Are Tesco going to react to that? It's all about just kind of aligning comms from your customers internally and making it kind of feed and bottleneck into one big thing, I suppose.
Yeah, right. That's just really interesting. What do you enjoy about the role then?
Again, it sounds very cliche, but the autonomy to kind of do what you want, it depends on the business, right? The business I'm in now are very trusting. They let you go and do about your work what you want to do. So if they put the trust in you that you can build your account effectively without much input from them, they don't micromanage, whereas some businesses probably do. So you can actually do it. So my big thing is that people buy from people. So irrelevant of the numbers, irrelevant of the data, irrelevant of what you've got behind, if I can kind of break down that relationship with the buyer, get to know them kind of at a personal level, I feel that goes a long way to achieving more. Anyone could go and sell a product and say, this has got this in it and this will tell just rate of sale, but it's boring. People don't think how many meetings buyers will have 10, 12 meetings a day where people are just feeding them numbers. I think it's important to kind of take a step back and be a bit more personal with it.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Well, bit of a segue actually, but how have you found the switch from traditional face-to-face to Teams? Has that affected the dynamic of building those relationships?
Yeah. So I joined Candy Kittens in June last year. So I've been there 7-8 months now, and I think I've had 2 customer meetings in that whole time, whereas before, like in my previous roles, when I just say the job that you employed me for previously, actually, like that first couple of months, you're traveling around the country, you're meeting all your customers, and it's a lot easier to understanding, because it's not just right, I've got half an hour in Teams. You actually get some time to talk to them. Whereas the Teams/Zoom live is a bit more, you get your point across and then you kind of go on your way and make it happen.
Yeah.
So it is a bit more difficult, especially for someone who, I'm a bit of a people person. I like understanding what football team people support, blah, 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 blah. Is a bit more, I don't know, scripted is probably the word on Zoom. Like you follow your little points that you've got, you get out of it and then you get out.
Yeah.
Whereas the 2 meetings we've had in person while I've been here, we've probably achieved more out of than any, like the countless number of Zoom meetings we've had.
That's really interesting, yeah. Yeah, it's been similar for me in recruitment. Like, I used to meet people every Friday. I'd go and book out a hotel somewhere in the country, just stack all the meetings. And I haven't done that for like 2 years now.
It's weird,
meetings like this, but it's different, isn't it? Different dynamic.
But I say on the flip side, though, it does help. Like in my previous account, I looked after a lot of the SPA RDCs where they're scattered all over the country. So I'd be going up to Scotland to see CJ Lang for half an hour meeting and then driving home, and it's 12, 13 hours out of your day, maybe more, for something you could have done on here just like while you're having your lunch. So
then you got all the admin on top when you get back. It's fair. I found the same thing. It's been better for work-life balance, but I think it's definitely not dead, the face-to-face meeting. I think there's still massive value if you can engineer one. It's brilliant for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's important to have, like, even if it's like once a quarter where you just go for like your quarterly catch-ups, your quarterly what's happenings, and then the rest of it you do on Teams, Zoom, etc. There's a balance, I suppose, isn't there? Same with everything.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. But builds kind of nice on the next question. Actually, what are some of the challenges in the role?
So the challenge is that it's a very, very competitive market. Like whatever sector or category you're in, primarily it's a sales job, right? And when you're trying to sell, there are 10, 15, 20, 30 other brands trying to compete for that space as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very overpopulated market. There's more brands with the trends like veganism and everyone's trying to be more carbon neutral, etc. There's more smaller brands coming out, which are probably being recognised by buyers now than historically. Historically, probably a lot of the big boys dominated the fixtures because they generated the most money, they had the highest rate of sale. But now, I should probably say challenger brands, right? They're having a lot more impact because of the issues they're having in the world with global warming, etc., etc., etc. These things aren't going to go away, which is good, especially for a brand like us, for Candy Kittens. We're vegan. We're working towards being carbon neutral. We're working towards being B Corp.
Right.
Whereas a lot in the past, those things wouldn't have been recognised by buyers. Whereas now, they're kind of like a USP without being a USP. So that's the main challenge, is trying to compete with the bigger boys and disrupt that channel, which is one, like I say, it's getting easier.
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of a backdrop of like disruption or opportunities for disruption, but there's a lot of competition to take advantage of that particular play. So it's about kind of finding your particular way forwards within that sort of context.
Yeah, I think as well, we know we aren't going to compete on a rate of sale basis with someone like Haribo because they've been around for years and
Kids and Grummers,
it's 90p. It's 90p, it's a pound. It's like people just go on, they grab it and they chuck it in a basket. Whereas our product's a bit different. The things we're trying to promote are increasing that average selling price. We want to so basically our mission is that we want to become like the Lindt of sweets. So when you go to a chocolate fixture, you see you've got your kids' buttons, then you work up to like your own label, then your Cadbury's, your Galaxies, and then you've got like your top shelf Lindt green and blacks, which are like special occasions. There isn't that segmentation in sugar at the minute. Well, there wasn't, and we're trying to be, no disclaimers, but the Lindt of the sweet world, basically.
They are super, super sweet, and the flavours you've got are very different. Obviously we did that review recently, Sofa Snacks, and loved it. I think it was the dragon fruit one, if I remember right, was my favourite one.
They're just so fruity. They actually are. You can really taste like the fruits that go into them. You can actually notice the difference between, like, obviously so there's some great sweets like out there, like wine, but you can actually taste the difference and the premiumisation.
I know I'm obviously biased. Like me and Harry, because we review so many products, we always talk about, like, does it give you sugar mouth? That might just be our little weird wakey word, but we didn't get sugar mouth, which is great. You know, sometimes
No, yeah, I know.
it's a
When
really
you get
nice
like
sweet.
that coating,
Like it's all furry
yeah,
afterwards.
yeah,
You have to go and have a coffee or something just to get
brush
hot
your
drink,
teeth,
melt it off. But no, they're great. So if you're watching, guys, you need to go and try it, Candy Kittens if you've not already. In fact, go and watch our review and then try Candy Kittens. So who are the key stakeholders internally and externally that you work with the closest?
So with us, so our board is split between half Candy Kittens kind
Yeah.
of people, I'd say, and then half. So we're manufactured by catchers.
Oh, right.
So the
That's really interesting.
board is half of those as well. So they're the key people that we work towards. But again, like everybody, it's really everything I'm saying is really cliche, but it's actually fact. The Candy Kittens employees all buy into what we're doing. Like this is the first business I've been at that everyone's kind of reading from the same hymn sheet. Now, there's a lot of food businesses where people will go there because they might pay a little bit more money or it's local to them, but they don't actually buy into what the brand is or what the company are doing. Whereas here, everybody reads off the same hymn sheet and everybody's kind of banging the same drum, it's really nice. It's the first time I've actually had it where you actually think, God, we can actually make a big impact here, and everyone's the same. So yeah, it's nice. It's really nice.
So you've kind of got a lot of board relationships, but lateral relationships where everyone's sort of pulling together. And externally, like what sort of layer do you tend to interface with, and who are the key people that you're working with on all these different moving parts?
So there's obviously the senior buyers at the grocery. The grocery channel is huge for us. It's a huge kind of focus area. So getting their engagement and then to buy into what we do is huge. Like that's the main thing. So they're probably the main people externally that we work with, but there's also other people like our packaging companies, our distribution companies. Because we're growing at such a rate, there's going to be a point where we potentially outgrow those, but we want them to work with us. They're kind of like ingrained into what we do, and we worked with them for that long that we want them to grow with us rather than outgrowing them. So they're all people that different departments of the business talk to regularly and keep on top of, and they all buy into us as well, which is, again, a massive tick in the box.
Right, yes, that's really interesting. And then for you, obviously, you've done a few different roles in different companies now. You can have a really interesting take on what good looks like. What do you think good looks like in commercial management?
I think it depends on the business. So in my previous job was another confectionery supplier, but a lot of convenience led. So good to them might have been securing a listing in the grocers because it's quite hard to achieve. Whereas good to like a big company kind of Mondelez size, good to them might be growing by 0.1% because they're worth that much that the growth is significantly bigger. Whereas with, like I say, with these smaller brands, with us in particular, good to us is disrupting that market and becoming kind of like a face that everybody knows. So our big things are growing brand awareness, which is ever growing, and increase, like relating back to the gourmet and premiumization, growing average selling price. And we think by doing those two things kind of alongside each other, that'll naturally grow our rate of sale and then make us grow.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, just differentiating actually. Good is contextual. It depends on the company mission and the product and the history and the context. Yeah, it's a great point. What advice would you have to anybody that's looking to develop a career in your function? Graduate, could be someone looking to get into from category, somebody that's just not done a role in your shoes. What would you say the number one thing they need to think about before they move into commercial would be?
I think it's knowing kind of where you want to go with it would be the key thing. When I first started out, I started out as like a Coca-Cola rep going out, and I enjoyed the selling aspect of it. As you kind of get, progress, it becomes less selling and more relationship building kind of thing. So it's kind of knowing that what it could lead to. But I would say that the main things are kind of treat your accounts as a mini business of your own, as if you're like the entrepreneur or the head of that business. So whatever funding you've got set aside for that account, treat it as if it's your own money. Don't just throw stuff at, okay, we'll invest this here because Mondelez have done it. Do it to as if it's your money and spend it cautiously is the word I'd use, because investment doesn't always reap rewards. Treat those accounts as if they were as if you'd set up your own business and you were managing, and that was your lead. And I think the big one as well is just be consistent in what you do. If you say you're going to reach out to Asda by Friday, reach out to Asda by Friday. If you're going to share some notes internally by Monday, do it by Monday.
Great. Yeah. That's really useful advice, actually. We speak to a lot of people, and they sort of say, how do I get that bigger role in a company? They're not giving it to them. We'll say, well, what are you doing to build your internal profile? And you can hear the tumbleweed. But actually, the consistency in internal comms is so key, isn't it? But just to summarise it, it's like knowing where you want to go, isn't it? It's the consistency, and then it's also that piece around, I guess, understanding the account base as well, and kind of what their objectives are by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's probably one more as well, is like knowing your work environment. So a lot of the work, so our roles probably a couple of days in the office, the rest from home, is have like a safe space to work. So when my girlfriend moved in, I had a little office upstairs, which is now moved into a makeup room.
Okay.
And there was probably like a couple of weeks where I tried different areas around the house to find where I work best. But now I've actually got a spot I'm so much more effective and get stuff done. So make sure you've got, if you are working from home, make sure there is somewhere where you work there. Also make sure you've got close it down at the end of the day. You don't want it to feel like work when you're not at work.
Definitely.
So close that laptop up, get it away, and turn it back into the dining table it should be.
That's really good life hack. Yeah. Especially in this day and age where so many of us are in the office, 3 days a week, whereas we used to be at home office, whereas we used to be in desk office 4 days a week. You do have to really safeguard that kind of ability to get your downtime at home, don't you? Otherwise, you just fry your head, don't you?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, Jack, look, thanks so much for your time. It's been really, really insightful. I've learned a lot. I'm sure anybody watching will have done. If you're watching and you've enjoyed it, please do reach out. Let Jack know that you found his advice useful. Do thank him, because people investing in this content with us, it's all about hopefully supporting your career. Give Candy Kittens a follow on LinkedIn. Other socials are available. I'm guessing you're on Instagram or
they are stuff. Indeed.
Yeah, and most importantly, go watch our review and then go and try the products, because you'll love them. They won't disappoint. Look, we'll keep in touch with you guys. There'll be more content coming out soon. If you like the rest of what we do, just go find us on YouTube or LinkedIn and give us a follow. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Check out the playlist here for more content like this. Click the donuts to subscribe so you never miss an update, and give us a like and a comment so we know what content you'd like to see from us. See you next time.